If you like K-pop Demon Hunters, you will like Gentry.
1,000%.
Yeah.
The opening sequence is cat's eye.
Gentry's doing a cover of Blackpink and the karaoke.
Yes.
You might like it. With AI, every single thing you've ever watched that you love or played and love or read and loved is made by a person. It's never been anything else. I don't know where this confidence is coming from. Do you know how long it takes to make something good? Do you know the kind of miracle it is when a movie comes out and it's a good movie and like what those people went through to make that?
Hey guys, on this week's episode, I have my longtime friend Kal Athannassov, who's a character designer who worked on Crow the Legend, Carol and the End of the World, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Jentry Chau versus the Underworld. We talk about why character design is one of the single most important aspects of animated storytelling. It's a really fun episode. We had a great conversation, and I'm so excited that you're here to listen to it. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it. Thank you, my friend. It has been 100 million years.
Oh my God. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Would you be able to tell me what you do for a living, sir?
Of course, yes. I am a character designer, art director, most recently a comic artist as well. But yes, my main day-to-day usually involves some sort of character design.
Character design. Yeah. And you're doing character design for TV shows.
Yes, mainly, most of the time. I haven't made the jump to feature, haven't had that opportunity yet. But yeah, most of the stuff I've worked on has been in TV. And
a short film or two.
And a short film or two, yeah.
One short film that you won an Emmy for, correct?
Yeah. A million years ago, yeah. A short film that we were very fortunate enough to get a student Emmy, a student BAFTA, a student Oscar for. So
right. Well, you had the Wish Granter, which was
Wish Granter. Yeah.
That was your short film in college.
Hit the jackpot with that one.
Yeah, well, it's a great short.
I appreciate it.
That's how we met, was through your. You were in the College Television Awards that year. My very good friend Dylan Hoffman was in with you guys that year, and he was like, "You got to meet these guys. They're great. Come on over."
Yeah, that was what a time.
Yeah.
How long ago that feels at this point, but it's a memory that I hold on to very fondly. I remember our friend Kelly was a mutual, I think you guys had worked at the third floor, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and she was like, I love Nick, and we met, and it was immediately like, I mean, this is so nice, this is so awesome. I hadn't yet moved to LA, I think, at that point.
Sure.
So it was a really lovely representation of like, here's the type of people in the animation industry. And I was like, I want to be a part of this so bad.
A lot of friends of friends.
Yeah.
Right? It's
a
really
small
nice.
world.
I mean, you guys did so much. That film is so much fun because it's such a clever idea. And the world building of that short is kind of amazing. Like for students to be, building this idea of a man who lives underneath a wishing well, but he's got like a submarine type, heads up display. And it's like just all of these ideas that are just so clever and fun.
It was the best that we could do with working on a student schedule. But yeah, the idea was originally thought up by our thesis teammate and friend Echo Wu. It was something that she came up with originally, and then we were like, yeah, that should be what we work on. And our thesis teachers and all of them were like, yeah, this has the juice. Let's see how far you can go. And yeah, 3 people, a year and a half later, we did the best that we could. There's certainly things that I look back on now and I'm like, I would definitely change how we approach things like that. But we were genuine about making it. And I feel like that still comes through, even though there's a lot of technical limitations that, we couldn't fulfill all the way.
Yeah, but it looks amazing for a student short film. And also like, you can just tell that you guys put a lot of heart into it. And I think that comes across when you watch those movies.
I appreciate it.
Yes. And the other film that you made then after college, it was a little further down the road, was The Crow, right?
Yeah, I was a part of Crow. So that was a Baobab Studios. That was my first official anything that I'd gotten to do post college. For whatever reason, the universal line, I was able to be the art director on that, which is crazy.
Amazing.
But yeah, it was a big learning process. Got to wear a lot of hats. It was similar to to college in a lot of ways of, it's a small team, maybe
Mhm.
about 20, 30 people at the time tops. Not a big art department, not a ton of budget. So, you have to work within limitations. You're working in VR. Everybody's still figuring it out at that moment because VR is the big buzzword in the 2016 to 2019 time
Sure.
period.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good experience. I was very happy to be a part of it and do what I could on it.
And then that one, you won an adult Emmy.
A big boy.
big
Emmy,
boy
yeah,
Emmy.
somehow.
One of the heavy ones.
Yeah, one of the heavy ones. Surprised to this day, but very grateful for it. Yeah, I want to.
Very well deserved.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was an individual Emmy for character design. Yeah.
What an amazing experience. And that's how many years after college is that?
Oh, that was 3 years after college.
3 years. That's
Yeah.
very soon to win.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But super, super well deserved.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It was a
Yeah.
fun project. Yeah.
So you've worked on a lot of projects since then.
Yeah.
Got one of them up behind
Yeah.
us. What are some of your favorite projects that you've gotten to do?
I mean, this is my favorite one for sure. I think Gentry is
Jentry
years-
Chau
is
versus
years-
the Underworld.
versus the Underworld. Yeah, it was years in the making. It has a pretty long lineage in our personal history of like how it started. When we graduated college and we made Wish Granter, one of the unexpected things that came of it was studios reaching out to us and being like, "Hey, we really like what you guys did. Would you be interested in potentially pitching more stuff to us?" Which in the 2016, it's happening, fresh out of school. The gravity of what that is did not really set in for many years later that,
Totally.
hey, the biggest studios in the world are asking you if you guys have ideas, if you want to come share them. That's a pretty big deal. But I think part of us, we're still coming off of that. Coming from school, we sort of have only known go mentality.
Yeah.
So we kind of just treated it like that, like it's another assignment. And while we were super excited about it, we also immediately were just like, okay, we got to figure out what to pitch. And the first few years were just kind of spent throwing stuff at a wall, pitching stuff that were what we thought studios wanted to see. Toying around with things like doing a Wish Granter film, which we ended up optioning to Fox, and tried to play in that world for a bit. But, Fox got bought by Disney, and then, we got
Changed
caught
things
up in a
around.
whole
Yeah.
thing that, was obviously well beyond anything we could control. But it was still awesome to go and pitch these ideas and learn and sit in the room with these very important people that none of us knew. That we would just be like, what if this guy and he does this thing, and what if it's this cool world, and they'd look at us going like, okay, like that's interesting, cool art, maybe flesh it out a little bit more. It took years of us sort of throwing stuff at the wall and trying things, and eventually we started pitching not just feature stuff, we started pitching TV shows, and that's where we started really cutting our teeth into it. And at that point in time, Echo was very much wanting to be a writer, wanting to be a storyteller, and wanting to pursue that aspect of her career. And I was very much in the wheelhouse of like, I really want to focus on my art. I really want to figure out how far I can take this and be as good as I possibly can. So we sort of split up our roles in our group to sort of own different sides of the developing process, and that really helped us a lot. So we had developed some stuff pretty far before Gentry, but then one day, Echo was like, I'm wanting to do something with a Chinese vampire, a Jiangshi. And I was like, okay, that's really cool.
That's
and
cool.
She's like, it's probably gonna have a girl with powers and kind of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibe. I want to lean in on like my experiences growing up in Texas. And I was like, man, I can't wait to draw this. It sounded so cool. And Gentry was the first project that we worked in developing that started to scratch on my interests beyond just working on what I thought animation wanted us to do, which is like cute little kid with a big fluffy animal.
Yes.
So much of the stuff that was coming out in that point felt like that's what everybody wanted. Gentry was one of the first ones where it felt like we took the lesson of write what you know, draw from experiences, draw from your interests. And yeah, we started putting this pitch together in end of 2018.
Wow.
And then it was ready by COVID times. So
Wow.
early 2020 was ready, and I had put everything that I had into it. So much of what helped sell that pitch was that we wanted it to be bulletproof. We wanted whoever looked at it to know exactly what our vision was, what it looked like. So much of it had to deal with horror and action and Chinese mythology and school. And a lot of times when you say this stuff to execs or people that aren't necessarily don't have art in front of them, they go, well, that's cool, but what does that mean? And having done enough pitches, we had learned that we didn't want to leave anything up to their imagination. So we literally drew everything. Like I drew out the entire beats of like the pilot of moments that would happen, and colored them and painted them. And
wow.
It was a massive undertaking, but again, we didn't want to leave anything up to their imagination.
Right.
And then we started showing it to friends, and they're like, well, this has juice. This feels like something. And Echo's vision for what the story and the world and the music was always what it ended up being. It was always this K-pop driven, anime influenced project.
Amazing.
Well,
it's such a great show. I've watched most of it. And it's like everything in it is so beautifully done. Like storytelling, character design, everything, like voice cast. It's just like a great show. And it really it threw me back to my Jackie Chan Adventures days of I loved that show so much. And it has that type of vibe where they're like fighting off the world, the underworld that's coming for them the whole time.
Yeah.
With the Buffy the Vampire Slayer thing. And the K-pop influence, now it's, now it's as mainstream as it could possibly be with K-pop Demon Hunters. But, we were watching the Cat's Eye documentary.
Yeah.
And we'd watched that whole thing, Pop Star
Academy.
That was it. We watched the whole thing. And then when I saw that they were when Cat's Eye was doing your theme song, I was like, oh my God, amazing. Yeah. We watched them. We watched them become a band.
They're so good. We were so lucky to have them do that theme song, which I love.
It's a great song.
It's a great theme. Just opening to the show. Part of me wishes that Gentry had come out this year because of K-pop Demon Hunters and Cat's Eye being even bigger this year. It would have had a bigger splash, but it is what it is.
But I think it has a very good rating on
Rotten
Tomato. It's like 100 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh well, the people that have seen it like it.
Right.
So I'm very happy with that.
The character designs on that show are so interesting because they are pulling from mythology. They are pulling from all of this imagery, this Chinese imagery. So how much, I'm sure you just dove like full into Chinese mythology research.
It was a lot. It was playing with stuff and themes that I had never done before, and hadn't drawn a ton of creatures before it. And I think on the show, I sort of learned about where my comforts are and where they're not. And creature design is definitely one of those things that I would say there's artists out there that are born creature designers. Like they just get it. The ideas just come to them. They're doing the research obviously, but they're able to weave together these puzzle pieces in a more cohesive way. That was something that was a big challenge for me. And one of the things that when we finally actually got to making the show a reality was, okay, I want to find artists that just get it. Like I can trust them with this. I don't have to feel like I'm bashing my head against the wall. There's the stuff that I like doing and I can do this, but I feel like the overall project will be stronger if we find artists that understand it. And so we found an artist named Janan Wang and another artist, Kal Athannassov, and Sojung Kim, and they were three artists that, we leaned on heavily to be the creature artists. And they got the style, they understood what it was. Janan and Jong and Cole, naturally, they play around with more creatures in their art anyways. So when they got to be on the show, they were like, oh, this is kind of just what I want to draw anyways. So it worked out perfectly. You know, they gave us great ideas and made the show better than it possibly could have been. And I got to get out of bashing my head against the wall for weeks. So.
But that's so cool of you two to bring those guys on and know where your strengths were, where their strengths were, and then just make it one cohesive thing. Because it does feel like one cohesive style across the show.
I'm so glad.
Even though it's drastically different. There's characters with horse heads and then there's Gentry, you know, and it feels like they all live in the same world. Was there a character that you made that you were the most, you know, was one of the most fun ones for you to create?
I mean, Jentry was herself to me it's weird to say I have such a deep connection with the character that I drew, but I do think of her as like a daughter in a way. That I've spent years with this character and designing her and making sure that she fits everything narratively, and she is actiony and cool and human and emotional and complex and makes mistakes, and finding the opportunity to draw that is not something you get to sink your teeth into too often. But I was very adamant about when we got to production, like I want to do so many of these things that I haven't gotten to do yet. I want to find what she looks like when she's playing with her hair. I want to find what she's like when she's eating and just sitting and texting, and like I want to find the teenage girl that when you see her do something on screen, you can go, I know somebody like that.
Right.
You know, that's the specificity that I wanted to bring to her. And Gugu, I think, is a second close after.
Oh, Gugu's great. Such a great character. She's her great aunt.
Yeah. That was also inspired by Echo's great aunt, who she would tell us, like, I had a great aunt who was psychic and did see ghosts. And when Echo was growing up, she was like, what? Where's the ghost? Where are the ghosts at? So there's a lot of like the personal experience that she brought in. And so that was helpful to us to be able to create very specific characters that felt believable.
So when you're designing those characters, I mean, clearly we have 3 pieces of artwork that you have that you did that it's 3 different Gentrys, kind of. I mean, they're all similar, but it's different vibes. Yeah. So how did you kind of nail down, like, okay, this is going to be the length of Gentry's hair, this is going to be the, you know, her proportions, what, you know, her jawline, like those types of things?
There was things from the get-go that Echo wanted, which was like the blonde hair and sort of a cropped cut for her hair. Those were things that were there from the start. And I think a lot of that has to do with when we were making that, I believe Echo had blonde hair and sort of that cut of hair, and it sort of was just kind of like, do it like this. And I was like, you mean like what you have right now? And it was kind of like, yeah, sort of. And the fashion was something that was like super key important.
Right.
Echo was somebody who loves fashion, and it was very important to her. So me, a boy who does not dress like a girl, was very important to learn what is in right now. And that was like a big learning lesson of like, okay, what's the K-pop fashion like? What's streetwear like? Things that I hadn't had to think about. So it was like ton of research, asking questions of like, what is in now? That was where I fell in love with K-pop, was through learning about Gentry and becoming a fan of that whole genre. So yeah, it was drawing from reference, was drawing from what is in right now, from what is hip, what is cool. And then it was drawing kind of what I wanted to, which was, you know, at the very beginning when we were developing it, the show looked much simpler in style. It was much more Gravity Falls, sort of Star versus the forces of evil. Yeah. Once it got to Netflix, it was like, hey, this might be better as something a little bit more adult. But we don't want it so adult that it alienates people. And then it was just kind of finding a good balance of, okay, where does that exist? What's doable for a TV pipeline? You know, what can we work with? Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense because it's the character design is echoing the storytelling, which is it isn't a more adult show, right? Everything is it's more like horror kind of in some scenes, horror, and I was watching it and I'm just like, yeah, it is. This is pretty adult. Like, there's kids would probably be scared watching this. Yeah. Like, Well, I think all that stems from
In a good way.
No,
In a
absolutely.
good way. In the best way. I think
Oh,
kids should be scary.
It should be scary. We wanted it to be
best,
scary. Yeah.
You know.
We wanted it to be scary because when we were growing up, shows were scary.
Yes.
And it felt like we wanted to just make a show that we would have wanted to watch in addition to everything else we watched. And it just came from that. We weren't trying to do anything that was so out of the box or anything. We just wanted to make something we're proud of and we like. And, you know, if you showed it to kid us, we'd be like, that's awesome. And in every way imaginable, Gentry's as the finished product represents just that. It's the dream, like full circle. We got to do what we wanted to do, and you know, we're really happy with it. Yeah.
I'm so happy for you guys. I mean, I can't tell you. I just am just elated for you guys. It's so well deserved. Such a great final product that you guys made, and I'm just very excited to see what you do next.
Thank you. Me too.
Well, I know that you also worked on Carol.
Yeah.
Which is Carol at the end of the
Carol
world.
and the end of the world.
And the end of the world.
You can see the pattern. Carol and the end of the world. Carol and the end of the world. Gentry Chau is the underworld.
Underworld. Everything that you make has to have world.
Yeah. It's some sort of name with and world. This. Yeah. This
end
type
of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Carol is an interesting one because that show it's a really interesting story, a really interesting premise. Talk about adult.
Yeah.
And a bit of a spoiler alert, but it's about the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's in the title.
Yeah.
But she basically all of these. Well, why don't you say what the premise of the show is?
The premise of Carol and the end of the world is there is a mysterious asteroid that has appeared in Earth's atmosphere. And everybody's got 7 months to live. And it's just about, okay, now that everybody knows collectively they're all going to die, what is everyone going to do with their final moments on Earth? And it's a beautifully written show. It was a big learning process for me. And I, love the characters. Carol is very autistic. She's dealing with a lot. She prefers the balance and safety of, working in everyday life and just structure and going to work and answering the phone and doing her laundry and doing the dishes and going to her mom's house, on the weekends. And then everybody else is just kind of dealing with the fact that the world's about to end and they're sort of living out their dreams. But Carol doesn't know how to do that.
Right.
Because what she likes is just
the stability,
the routine, and that's kind of where the story starts. It was my first true leadership experience. I'd done art directing at Baobab on Crow and other projects, but getting to work on Carol was like, for me, felt like the big leagues coming in, and it was really intimidating because I sort of didn't feel like I deserved to be there. I was happy to be there. And in interviews, they'd be like, you know how to do this? You know how to do this? I'd be like, yeah, I totally know how to do that. I had never really done turns the way we'd done them on Carol. And it was a little
turnarounds of the characters.
Yeah. And I had never really gotten to do a lot of the stuff that they were like, can you do that? I'm like, I could probably do that. So yeah, I could do that.
Like, yes, I can.
And, they asked me to do a take on the characters, which when I interviewed for that job, it was like, hey, we had a lot of artists do their own take on Carol. We're just curious to see what you want to do. And I did. And they were like, this is it. This is what's unifying the process. I was like, okay, great, fantastic. And I started and, suddenly I had 7 months of pre-production.
Wow.
This is like the golden age of streaming where like shows are getting greenlit left and right. Everybody's getting a crew gift when a show launches. And I was just so elated to be there because up until that point, every other week I saw somebody, a new artist, like, hey, I'm going to Netflix. I'm going to Netflix. And then finally felt like, okay, my turn. And I got to go and work on this really cool show, really different art style. So many amazing artists had already done takes on the characters. So, I feel like I can't really take credit for that stuff because so much had already been figured out. My job was kind of to come in and unify everything and then, okay, find the character and then find the
well, everything is reference from another thing also.
Yeah.
So it's like, but with a character like Carol, you look at her and you kind of she doesn't have to say anything,
Yeah.
and she often doesn't. And you kind of know who she is just from her, how she looks, how she behaves. And I'm just wondering, is there like any specific physical traits that you were like, okay, maybe this type of shaped mouth, or this type of, or the cheeks, for
Yeah.
example, that maybe like make this character kind of
Yeah.
specific?
So the show creator and showrunner Dan Gutterman was very adamant about, I want Carol to look like her voice actress, which is Martha Kelly. I believe that's her name. And he was very specific. Like, I want the eyes to sort of look like Martha's eyes. Like other artists had drawn these very, very specific sort of droopy eyes, and it was finding a way to work it in. But when I came on, so I read the script and I saw some early boards, and Carol is such a block, literally, in like this world of like fun shapes that everybody's sort of running around living. And I pitched her as like, everything she does is sort of static. Everything she does is sort of very closed off. She doesn't really break out of this very blocky shape that she is. She doesn't really, she changes as a character, but her shape always remains that very blocky thing, and changes the world around her. So, I'd done these drawings of like, she holds people up with a gun at some point in the story.
Yes.
And instead of like her holding the gun in a way that's like, in charge and actiony, I want her to always be very closed off. Even when she's like undoing her dress and stuff like that, I want her to do everything in a way that's awkward and sort of, just
evokes who she is.
Yeah, to try and bring that full circle.
So on that show, what was your title on Carol? I was
the lead character designer.
Designer, right? So you're working, and did you have like animation supervisors and stuff as well, or?
We did have animation supervisors. Yeah.
So you're working with them and going, okay, this is something that from the start we feel like would be really important to push all the way through animation.
Yeah.
Right, because you're collaborating with them on that.
Yeah, I'd pitch it to Dan, and I believe they were the animation supervisor. Don't recall exactly what, but they were giving notes on animation. So, regardless, I pitched this stuff and they were fine with it. It was like a go. But usually, most of the ideas I brought up, everyone was very receptive and open and welcoming to. So it felt like I had pretty clear, open field to play in when it came to like, how do we want to treat these characters? Carol meets this guy in episode 1, Eric, who is basically the exact opposite of her. His wife has left him and his kid hates him, and he's sort of a mess. And I had seen some designs that were done already of him, and reading the script, he was a mess of a person, unlike Carol, who's this very put together, blocky character. And I just pitched this version of him where everything's messy. His hair is messy. He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. His shirt is off kilter and unsymmetrical, like everything is just wrong, like he's a slob. And they were like, oh, great. And from that moment on, I never really got much pushback when it came to like how I wanted to treat the character's personality. It was a pretty awesome freedom to have for
that's amazing. That's so cool. This was this your first official gig outside of the Crow? Was this like,
out of Baobab?
At a major studio, I guess. Netflix was like, this was your first like Netflix
this
gig.
Was my first true Netflix gig. It was crazy. So when eventually pre-production ended, and then all the other artists joined, the character design team joined, and I was panicking because I'm hearing for the first time about these artists, and up until then Baobab didn't have a big art department, so my personal interactions with artists have been very limited. And suddenly I have 8 artists working under me, and all of them more experienced than I am. All of them have been working on Netflix and Cartoon Network and worked on this show. I remember the first day I met all the leads, even was they were, oh, my so and so, I worked on Steven Universe, I worked on this. And I was like, what am I doing here? Why did they let this happen? How could they think I should be here? And I was like, still going through a very interesting part of my life where I just had no confidence in myself and didn't feel like I deserved to be there. And I was like, I'm Kal, like, you know, I worked on some stuff like VR, but like nothing like what you guys have worked on. So I'm
Yeah.
just happy to be here and learn. And one of
I've only won 2 Emmys, but you know, it's
one of the supervisors she goes, man, I know you got Emmys. Like, why don't you get some confidence? Like, you're not nobody. I was like, oh yeah, okay, sorry, yeah,
you gotta
you're
just
right.
go stare at it while you eat dinner or something.
Yeah,
Like,
and then
okay,
I took those words. I was like, she's right. I gotta get it together.
right.
You
I
know?
earned a little confidence in my life, right?
That was
In my artistic life.
useful. I was like, I could say something nice about myself. It's okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a hard thing for artists to do, man. It really is.
Like, some people have it. Some people have too much of it, and then a lot of us, I feel like, don't have any.
Right.
You know,
we need a balance where you like shake some of it out of, you know, the ones who have too much, so that it's like pixie dust.
Yeah.
You know,
like, how many times have you told an artist like that's awesome? Didn't you go, no, it's not.
Shut up.
No. Yeah. After time and experience, like, yeah, own that. You know, like, you did great. Be like, yeah, you know, I did that. Yeah.
But I mean, for anybody, it's overwhelming if you're starting out on this new job, really, where it's not just you being an artist in your corner making your beautiful artwork, but you're now overseeing other people and giving them feedback and you know, interpersonal relationships. You know,
that was new for me.
What was that like, learning how to manage other artists?
I was really nervous because I never want anybody to feel offended by me,
right,
or feel like I've slighted them, or feel like I'm overstepping. The act of giving someone feedback terrified me at first, but there was also things that I could see that could not necessarily be improved, that their thing wasn't good, but rather hit a goal that we're all working towards.
Yes.
And navigating that at first was challenging, but I sort of had to just do it, and I did it in the nicest way that I possibly could. And like, I was very careful to tell all these artists, again, that are way more experienced than I am, have done this way longer, that like, maybe that eye on the left is maybe a little smaller and we should make it just a little bit bigger. Right. Drawing over it, walking it through them. And the revelation eventually came from when the show ended. And they are still my friends to this day. Like, we all still hang out. They didn't hate me. The feedback I gave them did not make them resent me, which made me go, okay, I might be okay at this, because they're all still talking to me, and they all, you know, come to my birthday, and like, we're going out, we're getting lunch. So like, clearly I must have done an okay job at it.
Yes. And in fact, I'm sure they appreciated all of the notes, because that's how you get better in this industry, is working with people who have a different eye than you do and learning from them, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think so much of being on a show is you're working towards somebody else's vision. And my job as a supervisor is to get everybody in the same boat and haul us to the other end of the shore and get there on time and get there cohesively together. And, you know, I'm fortunate to say I've never really encountered egos. Everybody's always been very kind. Everybody understands this. So I was fortunate to work always with like the best people that are always very receptive. And yeah, it taught me a lot. I learned as much from them as, you know, I don't know if they learned from me, but
they did.
I hope so. I hope so.
I'm sure they did. Yeah. I don't know them, but I'm speaking for them. They definitely did.
No comment under this. Like,
no,
we didn't.
No, I don't
it was terrible.
They're like, I'm still recovering. But no, it is. I mean, that cohesive, it kind of like with Gentry, we were talking about before too, like having it feel cohesive across the board for a TV show or a movie or any project that you're working on is so important, because if you're looking and the characters feel like they're out of place, it takes you out of the story. You know, and like, you have shows that adult TV shows like Family Guy, The Simpsons, and South Park. Clearly those are very specific styles, but even something like Family Guy, you know, you see the eyes are a certain shape. They're only a certain distance apart from one another. All these things that are consistent across the characters. And I'm sure it was the same thing for Carol too.
Yeah. You know? The other supervisors started doing style guides for their respective departments. And one supervisor in particular, Alex Myung, who's just the greatest, the best. Shout out to Alex. He did his style guides for the design department, they looked like magazine covers. They looked like an encyclopedia. It was immaculate.
The background design, is that
just the style guide for how to follow along and design the backgrounds.
The backgrounds, yeah. Oh, cool.
And I was like, wow, okay, I guess I got to do a style guide for the first time ever. And mine sort of looked like the type of sketchy notes you'd find in a video game that's sort of like someone died here and left behind something to be found.
And Uncharted. Just
wow.
Yeah.
You know, this is how to draw Carol. But I did it, and it was okay. You know, it wasn't as well put together as Alex. But yeah, that was one step to like, okay, let's try. How do I get everybody to think the way I'm thinking? Right. The hardest thing with Carol was that Carol's not the way I naturally draw. It's something that I'm sort of jumping into, and I'm trying to wear somebody else's skin. Yeah. So I'm trying to explain to them how I'm wearing the skin and what I'm thinking about it and what I've noticed about it that has helped me keep it consistent.
Yeah. That's it. That's so interesting too, because you yourself are trying to adapt to that specific style. That's not Cal's style, you know, of drawing.
Yeah. There's been a lot of those over my career. I think it's ultimately resulted in me having to wear other people's skin multiple times, which has made me strangely useful when it comes to now being a teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I want to talk about that. How has your style evolved then? Like, has your style been affected by all these styles you've had to wear?
100%. 100%. I think part of that stems from when I got to college. I didn't have a look, and there is an animation look that people are like, this is animation work and this is not. And I sort of just kind of drew whatever before then. But going into college, it was like, oh, this is what ringling work looks like. I guess I should try and adapt what I'm working to sort of fit that vibe, which my friend always jokes when he first met me. He's like, I thought Kal just drew big animals. He loved big animals and little girls because that's all you drew. And I'm like, well, they're cool, but I kind of just drew that because I thought that's what you were supposed to do in college. And it took that and sort of working on other shows and kind of, you know, Crow's one thing, and then they do another project, and I'd be like, what if we did this style? Because I didn't want to draw the same thing. And then Carol is, what this style look like? And so from each thing I've worked on, I take little things that I like, and now 10 years out of school almost, I finally feel like, okay, I know what my work looks like. I know what I like, but it sort of took going around the block and picking up little ingredients from everyone to understand what it is that makes my art and what I like about it.
Yeah. We're all kind of ingredients of all the people that have influenced us.
Exactly. There's no totally unique thing. Everybody's just doing their own interpretation of it. And once I sort of figured that out, I no longer felt like I had the pressure to be like, well, I have to stand out. I have to be this, or I have to draw like Shion Kim, you know?
Right.
Because for the longest time, like those were the things that people are like, this is the best. And I'd be like, well, if that's the best, then I guess I should try and draw like that, which was helpful in some regard to like understand what is going on in their head when they're making these decisions.
Right.
But ultimately, at some point, I sort of would pull out. Like, I don't want to just be, I don't want to be a worse version of, you know, somebody that's already doing amazing work.
Right. But you can also pull from that and go, why are people connecting with that character?
What about this is speaking to me that I feel the need to draw it.
Yeah. And then I can use my version of that.
Yeah.
And go, oh, you're still going to connect to this character, to Gentry, in the same way you know, connect to Moana. Totally. You know, because of what you're evoking with your drawing, even though the drawing styles are completely different.
Totally,
yeah. So you said you've been doing teaching. You've been teaching recently.
I have. Yeah. A new venture, a new something.
Online courses.
Yeah.
And it's a character design course.
Right? It is. Yeah. Sort of a bit of a long-winded story, another one. But I'll rewind it back to when I was at Ringling. I had an incredible mentor, and his name was Paul Downs. He was our animation teacher. I first met him. I was a sophomore in college. Up until that point, I'd come across a lot of teachers, but he was the first one that I didn't feel intimidated by. I rather felt like I wanted to impress him. like in a very weird, like I wanted to get his approval. And in reviews, we'd put our animations up and he'd review them, and like if you did a good job, he'd go, good job. And he'd go, all right, thanks. And you'd wait for your turn, and then it'd be mine, and I wouldn't because I wasn't sort of getting what the animation side of things was yet. Eventually I did get a good job, and I was like, oh, nice. And he was the type of person who, whether it was like 1 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. in the morning, you email him like, hey Paul, like my file is crashing and I don't know why, and I've been up for 72 hours, please help. And he would in 30 minutes send you back a video recording of himself like opening your file and like telling you like, hey, you're actually doing this, like do this, like, or hey, I don't know what's going on, but let's talk about it in the morning. He was always ready and there to assist. And everybody in school knew that Paul was like the teacher. If you're lucky to have him, he respects work ethic and he respects you putting in the time. And if you put that in with him, he will give back and actively make you a better artist. He will give feedback that's not just telling you what he wants to see. He's telling you what he feels like you can improve at and grow for yourself. And so when it came time to doing our thesis, Wish Granter, we so desperately wanted to have him as our teacher because we knew, hey, if we have him for pre-pro, he is going to give us the world. He's going to give this the time and day that nobody else has, because he works actively in animation. Like when school's out, he goes back to Blue Sky, and he's also working on pitches with his writing partner, and he gets story. He understands story in the way nobody else did. And so we had him for Wish Granter, and one day we're doing dailies and we have our boards up, we have some art up. He gets through the boards, he stops about halfway through, and he's like, who did these boards? And we're all working on them at the same time, but he was talking about my board specifically. I was like, I did them. He's like, these are really good. You could do something with this if you want. And it moved me to my core because I had never been recognized like that. I'd never had someone acknowledge, people tell me, yeah, like, you're good at art, but to have someone be like, you have something here that, you might not be aware of. I'm letting you know if that's something you want to do. And after the school year ends, he tells me, next year, senior year, you're doing your thesis. You got a lot of stuff ahead of you. I mentioned to you, like, you can potentially do storyboarding. If you're serious about learning more and getting better, I'll do an independent study with you. You come in every Wednesday, you pitch your ideas, you pitch me your boards. I'll work with you for an hour and a half, and then we'll get you to a stronger portfolio.
Wow.
And then in the height of working on thesis and just the craziness that was, I took an independent study with him, and on top of that I was doing boards. And I look back on those boards coincidentally a few months ago. They're all right. I don't think I was getting everything he was trying to tell me. I'm glad I can see it now, but in the moment I was just too exhausted to really grasp it. But I could see him sort of breaking through with me and really sitting down and like giving me the time of day to actively get better for no other reason than he knew that this would help me, that it was beneficial for me. And, when we graduated school and we were working on pitches, this man would meet with Echo John and I just on school nights, and we would call and he would hear our pitches that we were working on. He'd be like, okay, this is working. That's not so strong. Think about this. And he was just an active mentor to us when he didn't have to. Wow. Again, this was of no benefit to him. And it just changed my perspective on like what a mentor could be, what a teacher is.
Yes.
On top of, I always say, like, on top of like going to Ringling and meeting, some of the most important people in my life, I also got to meet someone who changed my life in Paul. And I always felt like that was the gold standard for feedback. That was the gold standard for attentiveness. And, when I eventually got into a leadership role and I was like, okay, I want to do a good job. I also don't want anybody to be mad at me. Paul's the first person I thought of because I was never mad at Paul for feedback. He never gave quote unquote bad feedback. because I had teachers that'd be like, hey, you got to change this character design. His cranium's too big. Where does the brain fit in there? And when you're in school and you hear stuff like that, you don't really have the confidence yet to know for yourself if you should take that note.
Right.
So we would go to Paul, be like, do you think we should do this? He'd be like, I don't think you need to do that. He gives us feedback with the purpose of actively making us better.
Right.
Not giving us feedback because what he wants us to do what he would do.
Right. He's following your lead as a mentor, which is funny, right? Because he's going, well, okay, what is the thing that these guys want to achieve? And then he's following that
He's
and
meeting
giving advice within it.
He's meeting us where we are.
Exactly.
Which is...
it's what the best mentors do.
Truly.
That is what
truly.
Yep.
And so when I got to Carol, part of my fear was like, I don't want anybody to be mad at me. But the other part was like, let me just try and kind of do it the way Paul's doing it. Let me see if I can. And like I said, everybody was okay with me at the end. So, I was like, okay, this is, it's not, I'm not bad at it. And then Gentry we got to, and that team was comprised of, or that character design team was comprised of a lot more junior artists, people that were just fresh out of college or hadn't really worked on a show this big before, or hadn't worked on certain things that was new to them. So on top of leading them and trying to get them across the boat, there was also a lot of like mentoring in a different way that I had to do on Carol, where everybody was much more experienced. And when that show ended and they were like, hey, thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate, I know I maybe didn't do this thing right initially, but I feel like I got there. And I was like, you totally got there. When that ended, I was like, okay, I might have something with teaching. I might give it a shot. And I tried it out last fall. I posted online like, here's a stranger asking people that don't know him to pay him money to learn to draw characters. Or not, they already know how to draw characters, but impart on them what I know. And people did sign up. And I was rocky at first, but I did my second class this summer, and I really felt okay, this feels nice, because every student that was there was sort of saying the same thing, which is, I feel like I'm not really learning too much about character in school, or I haven't really had a chance to do this. And so it felt like there's an active opening here for something that most of them kids don't know. And if I can try and meet them where they are, impart on them what I know, I don't think that they'll immediately have a job after this, but I certainly think that maybe by the end of these 9 weeks, maybe they'll be stronger. Maybe they'll know something more. Maybe they'll have a little more confidence in their art, or that they know what it is they want to do or how they want to, be seen in this industry.
And for them to have a mentor like you, who is somebody who has that connection, has that mentor-mentee connection with your mentor, and you went, okay, this has affected and changed my life indefinitely, forever. Yeah. And you've felt it yourself, so now you can impart that on this next group coming up.
I hope so.
Where can people sign up for your class?
Well, signups are usually on my Instagram, LinkedIn, Kara, Blue Sky. You just find a post that says my class header on it.
Cool.
And you can click on it, and then you can see instructions on how.
I will put some links in the description at the bottom.
Appreciate it.
So if anybody wants to join,
unfortunately, the signups close tomorry.
Yeah, well,
but there'll be more.
There'll be more for the next round. Yeah, you're like, they're sold out already, guys. But oh man, that's so much fun, and it's like to get to give back in a way that Paul did for you is like it's pretty amazing.
Right? I mean, the irony is not lost on me to go online right now and be like, hey, animation has never struggled harder. Pay me money to try and teach you to be stronger.
No, but people need to be ready. That's the other part of it too, is when these jobs do come back, because the pendulum always swings.
Yeah.
right? It's there's times of feast and famine, and right now we're in a famine moment. And as I say this, maybe in a few weeks when this comes out, we'll be in a feast.
That'd be great.
Who knows? I
That'd
hope
be
so.
great.
But I think right now, just to have positivity and people who are excited and passionate about what they do, imparting their wisdom to others, there's only positive. Speaking of that and the things that inspire us, are there TV shows or movies that have inspired you from a character design perspective?
There's so many things that have influenced me along the way. I think one of the strongest influences that I mentioned earlier was Shion Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Love how he works. Love his art. Love how his brain works. Love how he sees the world and how he puts it down on a page. His work on Big Hero 6 was very influential to me because it was a merging of a Western animation style in a manga into something very appealing, clean, and it spoke to me very highly. His work always speaks to me. Like Spider-Verse is obviously something that resonated with me. If I follow me for any number of years, seeing the amount of fan art I've done of it. Another artist, and this isn't specifically because of the type of work they do, because I don't draw like this at all, but Jorge Gutierrez.
Oh yeah,
is influential to me in that he is unabashedly himself.
Yes.
Everything he draws is like, that's a Jorge drawing. And I love that. I love that he's successful because of it. Because to me, he is the gold standard of, if you work hard and you just stay true to who you are, you can make it. And there he is, drawing exactly what he wants to draw. I'm sure maybe at some point he had to curb himself so that, his work was more quote unquote appealing for the mainstream to accept. But I feel like seeing his work now, it's very clear that he is drawing what he wants to draw.
Totally. Well, and you look at Book of Life and you go, well, that movie is him. It's his art style, everything. And they made all his art style three-dimensional.
And it's perfect.
It's amazing.
It's perfect. Yeah. I love that. I love seeing when someone's just having fun. And I feel like when I see Jorge's work, I'm like, I know he's having fun. I know he's enjoying this. I know that he wouldn't rather be doing anything else than this. Obviously, I can't speak for him, but it just feels that way when I see it, where it brings me warmth. And that's what inspires me.
You can see the joy emanating from his drawings. It's like, it's very specific and very cool. Characters have like very specific noses, like these like squiggly nose shapes. And it's like when you're initially designing a character, I always hear people talk about shape language, and Mike and Sully, it was like this circle and like a big triangle, is Sully, because it's kind of like that. And, do you think about that type of stuff sometimes when you're coming up with characters?
Sometimes. I'd be lying if I said it was on the forefront of my mind all the time. I think personally, I go by vibes. I kind of just go by, does it feel good when I see these two next to each other?
Right.
And then I'll kind of make adjustments from there, But my personal work isn't that shape driven. I tend to, at least nowadays, tend to lean into more natural proportions and things like that. But yeah, I think it's great. If it works for you, fantastic. I don't, in my class or anything, I don't enforce that on anybody. If that's how they want to approach it, then that's what it works for them.
I was looking, and watching Gentry, there's a lot of very specific shapes with those characters, whether it's like, intentionally like, here, we're going to make them a triangle and them a square and them a circle. But I think just having that variation in character is the, that thing that it's like, oh, that feels right. Ed feels totally different than Gentry,
Yeah. I think they still exist in the same world, but there's sort of a limit with how much you can push things. And it's sort of a fine line. You can push somebody pretty far before they start to feel like that's in a different style. But usually I like to think of it as there's little key things you can do to kind of get everybody in. It's kind of like the eyes all feel similar. The nose all feel like, they don't have to be the same nose, but they're sort of drawn the same way. Then that communicates to the audience like, they kind of exist the same way. Like they don't all have different details. It's different with the creatures because they're creatures. So the rules kind of fly out the window with them. You can sort of
Yeah.
do more things with them. But ultimately, because it's in a TV show, everything has to be sort of a per TV show budget and has to be sleek enough that we can draw this for 13 episodes and, it won't break the bank too much.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you like K-pop Demon Hunters, you will like Jentry.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, literally, the opening sequence is Cat's Eye singing. Like
Cat's Eye singing.
Yeah.
Gentry's doing a cover of Blackpink and the karaoke.
Yes.
Like, you might like it.
I just had one more question for you, which is, what is your favorite thing about what you get to do? What do you love about your job?
There's so many things I love about my job. I'll rewind it again. Most things always start at some point for me earlier. When I was 3, I was obsessed with dinosaurs. Loved them to pieces. They were my personality. And my parents were like, there's this movie that came out a few years ago about dinosaurs, and they're like real dinosaurs. I'm like, no way, what is it? And then they went to in Bulgaria, it was sort of the Blockbuster equivalent, and they rented a DVD of Jurassic Park, and they brought it back, and it was this like crazy cover where you can't really see the dinosaurs. There's sort of like trees on the edge of it, and there's like some claws and maybe like a shot of a snout. I'm like, what is this? And I played it, and it blew my mind. I was like, these are real dinosaurs. This is insane. Changed my brain chemistry. And then in the DVD case, there was 2 DVDs. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, movie 1 and movie 2. Fantastic.
Sure.
Let's do it. Watch movie 2, and it starts, and it's some unknown man, Steven Spielberg, talking about, Jason and the Argonauts and like stop motion and how it started and how he's been wanting to do Jurassic Park for a long time, and Phil Tippett and these masters of VFX, Stan Winston, came together, this team that came together to create dinosaurs. And I was like, oh my God, your job can be making dinosaurs. You can do this. And I remember they were working on these maquettes, these insane, like small little things, and some guy's sitting there sculpting it, and he's turning it around, and Phil Tippett's moving a stop motion puppet of a T-Rex, and he's opening the mouth. I'm like, oh my God, I would kill to have one of these. So I start making little dinosaurs out of, we don't have clay yet. So my mom is putting salt in dough.
Oh my goodness.
And she's like giving me, she's like, go play with this. And I'm like, putting it together, and I'm trying to make a dinosaur, but I can only really make it like a relief sculpture that's laying on the side. I'm sort of sculpting and trying to, and then after some time, that dough kind of just like deflates. It hardens over time, but it also loses its shape.
You made the fossilized version of the dinosaur?
Yeah. So from that moment on, there's this feeling of like, when I do that stuff, because I'm really excited. I'm really passionate about what this little dinosaur is. What I love about my job is that when I work on things that I love, still I feel that exact same way as making those little dinosaurs. Every day I get to do something meaningful. And sometimes not every job is meaningful. Sometimes it's truly just a job, and I'm here for a paycheck, and I'm here to help bring your vision to life. But when I get to work on something for myself, when I get to help develop Gentry, when I get to bring that to life, like that feeling was there of I'm making something meaningful. And I love that somehow, by the grace of the universe and a whole bunch of people batting for me, and literally pulling me out of the trenches at times and carrying me on their backs, that I'm somehow able to get to a point where I can still have that feeling, and like big places care about what I have to say, and I can make a living off of it. That's crazy. So I'm grateful, and that's my favorite job. That's my favorite part of the job. So actively do this. I can actively work on this stuff. The dream realized, like
It's a dream come true.
yeah, when
Mhm.
you met me, like in the Emmy stuff, I very much still felt like I'm chasing this thing, that
Mhm.
feels so, so far away. It's really nice to like reconnect after all these
I
years and
know.
tell you like, I feel like I did it. I feel like whatever it is I set out to do in that moment, I checked off those boxes.
I'm so happy for you, Cal. I am. I'm so happy, and you know what? I think I totally relate to what you're saying across the board. That feeling that you get, there's nothing else like it. It's that flow state. It's the artistic itch that gets scratched, and it's why we all love to do what we do. And I also feel similarly to you. When we met, I was also chasing the dragon, whatever you want to call it, and trying to like follow this thing. And now we've both had, very nice careers. We're still pursuing. We still are going through our careers, and
still more to do.
A lot more to do.
A
lot more to do. But it is nice to have a little bit of that contentment.
Yeah.
I won't say confidence. I'll say contentment in, okay, I'm doing okay at this.
Yeah. Acknowledgement. To bring it back to like artists
we're both doing okay.
Yeah. It's good to look back and be like, that's nice. Like,
it's nice.
We did okay.
It's nice to see good people doing okay.
Yes. And that's why AI will never be better than us.
Correct.
That feeling right there. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, but I'm sure you have strong feelings on AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
As an artist.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't these days?
Yeah. But you guys, I think more than anybody else, it uses your work as reference.
Yeah.
Reference.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a technology that is built upon theft. And if you're comfortable with using that, you kind of suck. So, not kind of, but you suck. If you're stealing other people's work and like, look at this cool thing we made and pay us to do it worse and less efficient, effective. Yeah. I mean, if you want to destroy the environment,
Cool. It's true, though. I mean, it is. I think that the funny thing with AI is like it's the big buzzword right now. They're using it for everything.
NFTs,
it's just
loot boxes.
Correct.
Yeah. Add it to the pile.
Literally, add it to the pile of trends of things. And it's like, yes, there is machine learning, which we've been using for many, many years.
Yeah.
And yes, you put in data, it learns from the data, and then it can help you. And these are tools, right? But that's not the same thing as taking people's artwork and having it spit out an amalgam of other people's artwork, like with no creative eye, overseeing that.
I mean, you can't teach appeal to people. It's something that you can certainly get better at, but I mean, there's plenty of artists that like draw good, but appeal is not something that maybe is their strong suit.
That's a hard one, yeah.
And also with AI, we have heard so much over these last 3 years when it first started rearing its ugly little head about it's going to change everything. It's going to do everything best. And I have yet to see one example of something worthwhile or decent or interesting. It's all just slop. And my favorite part is the reaction is always the same. Get this out of here. I don't want this. You put it in your movie. I don't want to see your movie.
Yeah.
You don't care enough about the frame that is going to be in your movie. I don't care enough to see it. I'm not going to support it. Secret Invasion. I'm looking at you for whatever that was.
Whatever it was.
And you should be like raked through the coals in the streets for doing this. Don't do it. But I also love when it does happen, that it communicates to everyone that you are cheap. It's got a stigma to it that I don't think it will ever shake.
I hope it doesn't.
I hope it does. And I think the line in the sand has to be very firm from everyone that you can put it in your movie. Sure. I can't stop you from making an all AI movie. I can't stop you from making a streaming service of all AI stuff. That's, I guess, somebody wanting to watch a new episode of Breaking Bad. uh, you know, but the sentiment will always be the same, that you don't care.
Yeah.
And if you don't care, there is so much stuff to do already. We're so pressed for time between amazing TV, amazing films,
True.
amazing video games, amazing music, amazing books, amazing comics. You somehow want me to add to that also.
Yeah, when you're not putting in the effort, you expect me to put in the effort as a consumer.
Yeah. So it will only truly ever live on social media. I think, they'll try to do, I think, movies and TV, and I don't personally feel like people will give it the time of day. I think it just feels cheap.
Yeah, it misses the humanity,
Yeah.
which is why we watch.
It is. I
movies
want to
and
watch
TV.
I want to watch things made by people. And considering how much flack people give movies that have bad CGI,
Mm-hmm.
you're then gonna go watch a movie where the characters are talking to each other and they're not even looking at each other,
Right.
and you're not gonna just drag that through the streets.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's the human experience.
Yeah.
We're watching it because you're connecting to Gentry. You're connecting to the characters in the movie that you watch because that's why you care.
Yeah.
Like you care about Rumi. You care about
Yeah.
these characters, or you wouldn't be invested in it,
Yeah.
and the movie wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
If you didn't care if the thing is going to happen to them. But then if they don't build that in who the character is based off of them not feeling human enough.
Every
one's
single
gonna care.
thing you've ever watched that you love or played and love or read and love is made by a person.
Yes.
It's never been anything else. I don't know where this confidence is coming from, that it's like, well, now we don't need you anymore because we can just take that. And like, do you know how long it takes to make something good? Do you know the kind of miracle it is when a movie comes out and it's a good movie, and like what those people went through to make that, or a show comes out and it's a banger? Like, that was so much work, and you suddenly just think that what, a machine's gonna take that and spit it out, and it's gonna be anything other than a series of images flashing forward that's just blending from one thing to another. Like, it's foolish, but it's also makes sense that people are saying that because they don't know, and when you don't know, it's very easy to go around and just spurt whatever nonsense comes out of your mouth.
Right. Yeah, it's really a shame because it is just like, it makes artists not want to, make art. It does. It makes us want to make art, but it is.
It certainly dissuades some people.
Yeah.
It makes, and I've seen it in my classes. There's certain people that have asked me, like, I want to do this and I'm still trying to learn. And do you, with AI and everything, do you think it's worth it? And my answer is the same, even if you're not at the level that you feel like you should be drawing wise. What you do matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, drawing matters to you, even if it's just like a singular experience, you're not posting for anyone. The way it makes you feel is something you should never let go.
Right.
Like describing the Jurassic Park thing, like when I said that, you probably related to whatever your Jurassic Park was, and then
Totally.
people online are thinking about, well, mine thing was this, mine was Lord of the Rings, mine was Star Wars. Everyone has that, and that feeling that you feel is the most important feeling for why we do this. We're chasing that dragon every single day, and what we do matters.
Chasing connection.
Yeah,
Right.
What we do matters. Like, it's so important. It's so valuable. When the world was at its darkest and like we were locked down for 2 years.
Yes.
Who did you turn to? Because movies and animation and TV shows and music is what got you through the darkness. Like, the things we do, not just animation, like film, movie, all of art exists. It's not, something that necessarily moves everyday life, but it's what you turn to at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's what's there to comfort you. It's what's there to resonate your feelings in music. It's what you turn to before bedtime, or what you unwind with friends online. It brings light to an increasingly dark world. So the idea that you want to remove the only part of it that's good and somehow think that you can do it better so you can make more money. Well, you can try, and they are certainly trying, but the result will be the same, which is it won't go anywhere, because you need people to do that stuff. You always will,
I love that so much. everything you just said was beautifully put. That is how it's gonna go, and I hope that's how it goes.
Yeah, people will win.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to me about your experiences, your art, your humanity. And I loved hearing about all of it and catching up. And I hope this is the first catch up of many.
Oh, please, yes.
And thank you so much, Cal, for taking the time to come and sit and talk with me.
Thank you. It's my genuine pleasure. I love this. As I said, before we went on air, like, what you're doing is so valuable. Like, this matters. This is important. Not just because, like, hey, you invited me, so but I watch your show. I listen to everybody that comes on.
Thank you.
I think this is really important because it highlights a side of the industry that we don't really get to see as much anymore. We used to get a lot more making of features and movies
behind the scenes
back when we would buy physical, and that stuff makes people want to do this. I'm not saying somebody's going to watch me and then think that they should go do this,
but that is the hope.
It's inspiring to see the stories, because there's so many stories. We're all so different, and this industry is incredibly small, as we know well. So what you're doing matters, and I can't wait to watch this blow up, man.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you and
so
all
much.
your successes. This is awesome.
Thank you. That's my hope with this show is I want to highlight all of the artists who are making the projects that and you love, because we love what we get to do. Sure. And it's just feels important to highlight them in a time like this.
Absolutely.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
And looking forward to hanging out very soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you all for watching this episode of Nick's Friends in Film. Please like, comment, and subscribe below. Check in the description for Cal's classes and sign up. We need more character designers ASAP. Please join us next week for our next friend. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.